I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Gary Exner. I'm a former president of the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. I've been driving EVs for over 10 years and doing outreach events. And EV incentives have always been a topic that people have questions about. And since they're designed by government agencies, they're never clear and simple. I'll just go ahead and start. And so I've got kind of an overview that covers most of the topics, and I'll go ahead and get started here. And here's my disclaimer on that is I am not a tax professional. Do not construe this as tax advice. I did not tell you to do anything specific, nor did I advise you on what would be most beneficial for you. So we're gonna, I guess one of the biggest confusions on the federal incentive is it's often called a rebate, and it is not, it is a tax credit. To many people, it's a fine line distinction, but there is a difference. If you're filing for it yourself, is you have to have sufficient tax liability to offset it. And so people often call it the federal tax rebate. It is not, it is a credit. And so on the new vehicles, I'm going to start with the state incentives. And there's some breaking news on Washington. How many here are from Washington? So there's some more incentives coming this fall. All the details aren't fleshed out, and it's designed specifically for lower income households. So that's the ones they want to incentivize. I'll start with the Oregon Clean Vehicle Rebate. It opened at the beginning of this month for a short window. It will be open through June 3rd. So it's limited funding. They get a set amount every year, and this year they used about a third of this year's allocation to pay for last year's pending applications. And the same is going to be true this year as they'll run through, and the people, everybody that buys within there is going to get the rebate. It just may take a year for you to get it. Some dealerships are offering it as point of sale, and it's completely up to them, because it's one thing for an individual to be hanging on, waiting for the rebate. A dealership that's got 10 or 100 or 1,000 cars out there, that's a lot of money hanging. So the point of sale rebate, take it if you can get it. It assigns it to the dealer, but it's not guaranteed. And so the vehicle qualification criteria is it has to have a base MSRP of any configuration of less than $50,000. So the specific vehicle you buy does not have to be under $50,000, but you have to be able to purchase a model of that under $50,000. So, for example, is if they have a single motor version that sells for $45,000, but the dual motor and the performance and you add all the things sell for more than that, the vehicle still qualify. The Oregon EV Rebate site has a list of qualifying vehicles on it. I didn't bring that up, as you can look at that later. And it's a $2,500 rebate on almost everything. I think there's one that it now has a smaller than 10 kilowatt hour battery. It's a plug-in hybrid, and that is limited to $1,500 on the rebate. Oregon also has a lower to moderate income boost. It's called Charge Ahead, and you can get an additional $5,000 off in addition to the $2,500. And that is set at 400% of the federal poverty level, which in rough numbers is about $60K for a single filer or $125 for a family of 4. There's a chart on Oregon's website that you can plug in and the Charge Ahead. Do recommend that you pre-qualify for that if you want to walk into a dealership and get it as point of sale. They'll give you a certificate number, and then you can use it. And once again, all the any purchase or lease within the time frame that it's open is going to get a rebate, but it might be eventually. Washington, there's one incentive that's been in play for a long time, and that is the state sales tax exemption. So they exempt a certain amount of the state portion of the sales tax for vehicles that qualify. And so the sale price has to be less than $45,000. There's something that's a little deceptive on a lot of their literature. They said total of all lease payments. That's not actually the way it's based. It's still based on agreed upon price, so it's still the $45K price cap is in play on that. So they basically waive the state portion of the sales tax on the first $15,000. trades or rebates do not reduce the sale price as far as, so if you trade in a car worth $15,000 on a $50,000 EV, it does not bring it below the $45,000 threshold. The new rebate program is set to start in August. They have identified the framework of it, and they also have identified the company that's going to manage it, but not all the rules have been fleshed out. The entire program from the state of Washington is income restricted, and similar to Oregon is they based it on a multiplier of the federal poverty level, which is 300%, or 3 times, so it's that's a 45. Yeah, 45, close enough, or 94 for a family of 4. I just did this last night as I was finding out about this new program, and proofreading skills were lacking. And it will be a point-of-sale rebate, and so it's $5,000 on a purchase or a 2-year lease, or $9,000 on a 3-year lease, and it's apparently going to have to be through dealers that are set up to do it. Unclear whether Oregon dealers are going to be able to sign up for that. Like I said, this is very new, and the programs are in the early stages, and so stay tuned. That doesn't start until August anyway. Federal incentives. This is the one that get the most confusion. But one thing that's important under, if you are getting the federal tax credit, no matter whether you're doing it point of sale, whether you're filing on your own, when you sign the documents, the dealer is required to provide you with a seller's report and simultaneously report it to the IRS. If the dealer does not do that, you do not qualify. And because that VIN is reported and the dealer is certifying that the vehicle qualifies, you qualify. That's going to be true on any new or used sale. It's up to $7,500 available. And there are MSRP caps in place. And this is the actual cost of the vehicle that you purchase. It is not what you paid for it. It is not, it doesn't take into account certain things installed, but it's not like the Oregon program where there has to be one available for under that price. It is based on the actual purchase price of the vehicle. $80K on SUVs, pickups, vans, $55K sedans, wagons, other. And this is also a common point of confusion is final assembly must be in North America. That is a criteria. It earns you $0 in tax credit. If it is not assembled in final assembly in North America, it does not qualify at all. The amount is based on 2 other criteria, on battery sourcing, where they get the critical minerals and where they get the components. So each of those can earn $37.50. There's also some other little caveats, and there's percentages that ramp up over the years, but there's also a little kicker that started on one of them. I think it's on the components this year, is if any component is from an entity of concern, it disqualifies the whole vehicle. The same is going to be true for critical minerals next year. So it's getting harder and harder for vehicle manufacturers to qualify. So like the Tesla Model 3, assembled in North America, it's eligible for $0 in federal tax credits directly. And there are also income caps in place, 150K single, 300K joint, and then there's somewhere in between for, I don't remember what the other category is.
I think the performance still qualifies, right, for $37.50?
Will qualify. I think it's $7,500. It's not on the official list yet. It was just announced last week, so.
And if it's at point of sale, then it's not a credit, right? Then it does not depend on tax liability.
It is a credit, but it removes the tax liability. And so the way it works, if you do it as point of sale and assign it to the dealer, is they will remove it, but you will also still must file the Form 8936 with your tax form. And if you exceed the income caps, you must repay that credit that you've gotten as point of sale. So it's a tentative credit. If you didn't have that much tax liability, that goes away, but the other caps are still in place.
Important distinction, right?
Yeah.
If you have $2,000 tax liability, if you do it at the dealer and the dealer participates, you get $7,500. If you file it with your taxes, you get $2,000.
And tax liability is different than the amount you will owe or get refunded at the end of the year. It includes your withholdings and everything. And so whether you're writing a check or getting a refund is not your tax liability. It is if they've withheld $10,000 in taxes in the year and you would normally have to pay them $1,000, your tax liability is still $10,000, so you would qualify for the full amount. Whether that's $3,750, $7,500, it's going to be one of those two numbers, except for unused. We're getting to use later. So that's for individuals and businesses. But commercial and fleet sales basically file under a different portion of the tax code. So none of those restrictions on manufacturing, battery sourcing, MSRP, and obviously no income caps apply to businesses. So if a business will carry the vehicle as a depreciable asset, they can file for the $7,500 without having any of those limitations. And that's how basically the leasing loophole come into play, because the actual owner and buyer of that car is the leasing company. So they are carrying it as a depreciable asset. They get the $7,500. Most are passing that on as a cap cost reduction, but not all. And there's other ways that they can basically provide that to you, is they can buy down the interest rate. They can play with the residual percentage. So it just reduces the amount you pay over the course of the lease. Oregon doesn't have an income tax, or doesn't have a sales tax, so there's not as many implications on doing it different ways. So basically, California is an example. In the past, some manufacturers would add the $7,500 to the residual, which would reduce the amount you're paying over the course of the lease, but would penalize you as if you bought out at the end of the lease because you wouldn't get the benefit. And so there's choices on that, because if you live in someplace like California and they give you the $7,500 off the top, you owe both income tax and sales tax on that $7,500. Where if it's added to the residual, so that's why some manufacturers did it that way. Any EV is going to qualify for the $7,500. Virtually any EV under leasing. Some manufacturers, most, as far as I know, all manufacturers except for Tesla do allow you to purchase the vehicle at the end of the lease. Tesla currently, and for some time, has not been allowing the purchase. So if you lease, you must turn it back in and you have no option to buy. Used vehicles. This is back to the charge ahead rebate. It's the $5,000 rebate is also good on used EVs in the state of Oregon. And I forgot to edit this, currently suspended at the lack of funding. I forgot to cut and paste on the other one. This is my presentation from last fall, also done. So late night edits are not always the best. So it is available currently, just like the other one. So it started any purchase April 3rd through June 3rd will qualify on the charge ahead. And you must buy from a dealer, no private party sales. Household income has the same limits as on the new that I discussed earlier. And it's available at point of sale from participating dealers, but you're going to want to pre-qualify. You'll get a voucher and a certificate number. And the dealers will be the same as I discussed earlier. It's on their discretion on whether they think that they're going to get the money back quickly by passing it on to you, or whether they're not. And so we're a month in, and there's a little bit of feedback that it looks like money is going to be readily available through next month, but it's anybody's guess.
As of a week ago, they had spent about $1 million out of the 8.
And had 7 left.
Had 600 applications in the pipeline already.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know if the 600 will be 2,500 apiece, 5,000 apiece, or 7,500 apiece. Roughly, I'd say it's between 3 and 4 million out of the remaining 7 that were in the pipeline already as of last Monday. So, while it's true that you can get that you can get the point of sale rebate if you have the voucher, if you apply for the voucher now or tomorrow or next week, and it takes 3 weeks to get it, it's not very likely for a dealer, like Gary said. If the dealer doesn't think they're going to get funding from the DQ this year, they're not going to accept your voucher. So now you waited 3 weeks. You can still apply after the sale, but you're 3 weeks later than if you bought now. Apply directly to the state for the rebate, not the the voucher, and hopefully are in line to get the money this year.
Yeah, you can actually, as long as you purchase, you have 6 months to apply. So you can go ahead and purchase if you have, a lot of the target audience of this doesn't have $5,000 to float, but if you can do that and you qualify, is any purchase is going to qualify. You have 6 months. You can apply directly. It just may not be point of sale from the dealer.
The income level, you said it's this 100,
400%, and so I can go back. What is it? So 150K single. Or no, is it half that?
75K single unused for the federal.
Yeah.
The charge ahead, just like on new ones.
Yeah, it's a 400%.
Household size.
Yeah.
It's 83 for 2 people, and then about 20,000 more for every child that you have.
so if you're just one house, one
$60-some thousand is the threshold for the Oregon one.
Yeah, I think it's 60,450 or something like that. Washington is kind of the same program as the state sales tax exemption, but the price of the car has to be under $30,000, and other than that, it's the same program. The new rebate program is going to be, the Washington program, the rebate program is the same as the other, except for it's $2,500 on used vehicles instead of the 5 or the 9, depending on the term. And once again, that'll be more fleshed out and is going to be only through qualified dealers. Stay tuned, more later. Federal incentive on used purchases, once again, only through dealers. No private party sales qualify, and the dealer must provide the seller's report at time of purchase. It's something that they log into the IRS website, and it generates it, and it qualifies the vehicle. Up to $4,000 is available. It's 30% of the sales price with the 4K max. Sales price has to be under $25,000. Income caps are 75 single, 150 joint. And you also cannot be the original owner, and you cannot have any title transactions on that specific vehicle after August 16th, 2022. So you can't look at a specific model and know that it qualifies. It depends on the history of that specific vehicle on whether it will qualify, among other things. And it looks like the IRS hasn't issued specific guidance, but if, say, you have been leasing the car for 3 years and you go to buy it at the end and you buy it from the manufacturers, you should qualify because you were not the original owner. The reason that the leasing company can file for the federal tax credit is because they were the original owner. Like I said, the IRS has not issued specific guidance. I would consider this a gray area that proceed with caution. I am not advising you anyway. My opinion is if you buy it directly from the manufacturer, but if somebody trades that in to a dealer, buys out their lease and trades it in, then it generates a sales transaction after August 16th. And so that 2 identical vehicles on a dealer's lot, one could qualify, one might not, based on the basically the Carfax titling history of it. Our government at work making things simple for us.
like prior years' taxes, like 2023, or is it kind of?
I'm trying to remember it. It's the most recent, or is it the lowest of the 2 most recent?
So the Oregon one is your last one, and I don't know if you could also go to 2022. The federal, you can use 2023 or 2024. Right, so you have to certify that you either meet the income requirements or expect to meet the income requirements. Now, if you already filed your 2023 taxes,
You'll know.
and you know that you met them, you're golden. And there's another phrase in there that says, you understand that you have to pay it back if you don't meet the requirements. If you met it for 2023 already, nothing can happen. If you didn't meet it for 2023 and hope to meet it for 2024.
Say if you're retiring and you know that your income is going to be cut down to below the levels, as you would then say, I'm going to make less in 2024.
The IRS will want the $4,000 back that they gave to the dealer from your money. Right? That's why it's important also that at the end of the year, you file your taxes and explain why they gave the dealer $4,000 of your money. If you don't, they're gonna want it back from you.
So basically, I'm going to kind of summarize that, the tax credit changes is the IRA was touted as expanding it, and in reality, it severely restricted it. It was somewhat complex before and confusing, and the simplification and the expansion has constricted the available vehicles and rebates and is continuing to do so.